by a lifelong interest in healing, Dr. Linda Salvin pursued an advanced degree in epidemiology. Then, after dramatic near-death experiences, Dr. Linda saw the other side and returned with gifts of insight, visions, and revealed wisdom. Now those gifts are ongoing, and she's here to share them with you. Get ready to be amazed. It's time for Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions podcast with America's original radio psychic, Dr. Linda Salvin, offering up her always fascinating blend of psychic psychology, clairvoyant insights, and expert guests and alternative healing methods. So pull up a chair and get ready for a visit with the one and only Dr. Linda. And now, live from Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Linda Salvin.
Hi, how you doing, everybody? I am Dr. Linda Salvin. I've got a degree in epidemiology and a PhD in metaphysics. I'm not an MD, I'm a PhD, so you don't get confused as to what the title is. And a lot of people around the country are coming down on the PhDs as not being doctors, because MDs are doctors, but that's not true. Over 5,000 PhDs were awarded in the state of California last year alone. And how many professors in college are doctor, and how many dentists and chiropractors and optometrists are doctors? Well, you got to qualify your degree these days. Everything's getting more and more micromanaged. I am Dr. Linda Salvin, a metaphysician and your host every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday right here on Psychic Solutions Podcast. Today, I have my friend Charlotte Kosa coming back on. She hosts the show on California Haunts. She's been with me many times. We're not going to do a ghost show today. We're not going to do a paranormal show today. We're going to do a spiritual show today. So when Rebel puts up the number for me to give out to you, hopefully, if you're listening live, I'd like you to call in to 561-623-9421 and share your spiritual experience. I'm going to give a couple examples of what close calls I've had in my life, besides the major one, like the plane crash and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to ask Charlotte what's happened to her and some of the people she knows. So let's bring Charlotte on now and say hello.
Hey, everybody, how's it going? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you feeling? I know you've had a few bumps in the road lately.
I'm good today, yeah. So finally, it's all like on track. So we hope it stays that way.
Yeah, it will for the next 30, 40 years. So just so people know, I'm going to be out of town the first week of June at a radio conference in New York that they're actually treating me to, the organization, because they love me and the show so much. After 30 years, they're going to try to get it to the next level of VIPs. So I'll be gone, but Charlotte's going to sit in for me, people. I may pop in because I'll be 3 hours ahead New York time, and depending on my schedule, I might pop in, but Charlotte's going to take over Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of the 4th, 5th, and 6th of June. At 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, and everything else in between. We haven't decided on the topics yet. We will have that arranged before she takes over. You want to do some ghost hunting, you want to talk about yourself, that's fine, but you got to bring it back to the spiritual, and you got to talk about me once in a while, or at least the candles, or my gift, or something that goes on. But
I'm very thankful for the opportunity to have you give me the keys to your show.
Well, I'll tell you, after working with so many people through the years, there's a camaraderie here that you understand the frequency I operate at, and we're able to talk on the same level. I love most of the people. There's been a few I could care less if I ever talk to them again because of their lack of personality, for I don't know what other word to say, or knowledge. And some that I've had on repetitively or worked with for months on end. It's great, but for the purpose of me being out of town, I want the show to keep going without doing replays. So I chose you to stand in. So you're very welcome. And it's an honor to know you too, because of all the work you've done. But why don't you back it up with explaining California Haunts and a little bit of your background, Charlotte, because there's always somebody new listening.
I grew up in a haunted house. I still live in the same house. I was one of these kids that saw things. Nobody in the family saw things except me. So I saw shadow people, and gradually that went into seeing, normal, what I call normal apparitions of humans, human apparitions. But for a long time when I was really young, I saw shadow people. It was terrifying. And then I did it.
Why don't you explain what a shadow people person is? Because a lot of people don't know the term. It's spooky.
It's spooky because there's a lot of theories out there about them. It's like orbs, that people can't remember what their bodies look like or anything like this. Shadow people, nobody really knows what they are, but they don't show up like a regular apparition. You'll see them as a full body thing, like in the corner staring at you, but they're completely black. They're shadows. Usually they're wearing hats for whatever reason, like because they tend to call them hat men too. But
Wow.
nobody really knows what they are. And I remember as a kid, I was sleeping in my bedroom back over on the other side in bunk beds, and they had a nightlight on for me, but I had a shadow hand reaching down from the top bunk to touch my head.
That must have been spooky and
It was
scary. I mean,
spooky as
if I
hell.
had something like that coming over me, besides all the dreams I had or nightmares or past life recall, and then the traumas, I don't know how I would have handled that on top of it. Go on.
It was spooky because when I went to my family, they said, "Oh, you got this real big imagination," which I do. I have a real creative and stuff. So that was their thought, was I was imagining all this stuff. But like I saw the hand, and I remember my sister, because we used to watch Saturday night horror movies, creature features. Remember how those all those B movies, those crazy B movies?
I
And
do. I
she was
do.
carrying me to
Some I wouldn't watch, or my mom wouldn't let me. Yeah.
and I saw a shadow man walk uh, outside my window, just walk by that night. And again, oh, you saw the movie, you're just you're just freaking out and all this. But yeah, I have seen shadow people all my life. In fact, once I started investigating the paranormal, which was 18 years ago, I've been doing this. We were on a case up in Georgetown, and it was with the newspaper. They were doing a story on us. We were headed to the cemetery, and Karen Clark, who's our top field psychic, was with me in the car. It's too bad because usually at that time I used to have a camera on like all the time, even when I was driving. And that night I did not have a
Oh,
camera,
and
and
what you
we're coming
see?
around the corner. And this is rural area. This is like the foothills, right? So there's like embankments on both sides that go straight up and all this other stuff getting to this place. We're driving along, and here comes this shadow man steps out on the road, right in front of the car. And the darkness was so thick of this guy that my headlights wouldn't go through. So we pull over.
What did you do? Was it kind of like rubber, or was it like a membrane, like a wall you couldn't penetrate?
Like
What was
it
it?
wouldn't penetrate. It was really weird because he was right, right. I mean, he went right directly in front of the car, and they just wouldn't penetrate. Then he went up the hill. So of course, us being us, we pull over. We're going, we're looking, and I didn't realize that the embankment, was so steep. Because I thought, well, maybe it's a farmer or something, coming through, across to get their animal or something. And when you look, there's no way a human being could get up that embankment without, like, literally climbing. And then
I would have freaked out. No, don't go on yet. I would have totally freaked out. I shouldn't say never. One of the spiritual experiences I can relate to, similar to that, was on a ghost hunt in a haunted house here in Los Angeles. The guy made a movie called House at the End of the Road, which is where Sharon Tate was murdered. And he and his father owned the house 2 doors down. And that house is haunted. And I remember one night I would do Ouija and we would bring in spirits. But there was a time we went down into the basement or the 3rd level of that home. And you open one door and there's nothing but a mountain of dirt and rock. And whatever it is lives there. And I swear to God, as we were leaving, the whole house shook and there was a roar.
Wow.
There was a huge jolt. There was no earthquake. It was a entity saying like we disturbed it because we opened that door that went to that mountain of rock, because they lived on a rock up on a hill. It's active and it's scary. And I remember jumping out of my skin. I remember thinking it's real. It's got to be. And yet at the same time, he just walks around because he's lived there all his life, or however many years he lived there. It was no big deal. But to a novice or to somebody that didn't quite believe, and then you see it, you got to see it to believe it. So here you're driving and you hit this thing. Then what happened?
Well, then, of course, there was nothing, so we went our merry way. Now, I did an investigation in a active hotel up in Columbia. I think it was the Fallon Hotel. I think I could be wrong. I think it was the Fallon Hotel. And we decided towards the end, there were 10 of us, and we decided towards the end to go sit in the
I got chills.
In the gallery, the gallery, the parlor. That's what they call it, the parlor. And the lights were off. The only light we had going was that the front door had like a stained glass front door. And so the light was coming in through there. And so I started to do the EVP session along with working with some dowsing rods. And somebody looked at me from across the room and said, "Hey, there's someone coming up the hallway." And I looked back, I didn't see anything. So I thought, okay, who knows? Because we were the only ones in the building. And so I start my session up again. Here comes a shadow man. He couldn't have been more than 10 feet away from me. And I hear he
Are
stops and
shadow
stares.
people entities or people that have died that didn't quite make it to the light, that stay earthbound, that want to hurt you, scare you, or do they have a purpose? Are they trying to be released to the light? I mean, what's really
That's the
going
thing.
on with
That's the
these?
thing. With shadow
We
people,
don't
nobody
know,
really
right?
knows. Nobody knows what their deal is. No. No, absolutely not. And so it's scary when you see them. You don't know what they want. Usually if it's grandma coming down the hallway, at least you know it's grandma coming down the hallway. But with this, you don't know. So I'm going to session. I look over and he's standing there watching us, literally standing there, 10 feet away. And so all of a sudden I hear my team. I had a lot of nothing against Christians or anything like that. Thank God they were there. All of a sudden you hear this, in the name of Jesus Christ, go away, go away. They're yelling. So he goes through the stained glass door and disappears. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll start up again. Sure enough, I get started. He comes back to the door. We watched him come back to the door and then stand there again. And then at that point I was like, turn the lights on, we're done. That's the end of the night. I don't want to deal with this. So then I drive home. I get home, and at that time we were taking care of my elderly father. So I was sleeping on the couch because we would have to get up in the middle of the night, to take him to the hospital. So I figured the best thing is to stay dressed and sleep on the couch. So I fell asleep, and I could feel someone on top of me. So I brought something home. Maybe it was him, the shadow guy. I don't know, but I brought.
Or as we've talked in the past, sometimes it's witches writing, where an entity comes and humps us or blocks us or gets on top of us or tries to strangle us, and people will often wake up going, I can't breathe. And I've had it where it's like, get off me. And I don't see it, I feel it. Or we've got the incubus and the succubus, we're having sex with the spirit. I mean, there's so much that goes on that we don't see, and people go, ooh, poo, this stuff is real, which is why
I remember reaching up. I was half asleep. When I felt it, and I remember reaching up like this, and I could feel the shoulders. And so I pushed it off of me and demanded that it leave. So, and from what I found out from, some of the psychics on my team, it was someone that followed me home from that hotel.
Wow. But it didn't really want to harm you. I think it's just doing its thing, right?
Yeah, it was just doing its thing. According to one of the psychics, I reminded this gentleman of his past wife.
Oh, that's a compliment,
and that's why he followed me home. So I'm like, okay, that's cool.
He wanted to pick up his marriage, maybe? Maybe he was horny. I don't know what he wanted, Cheryl.
It's a well-known video of me at the Holbrook Hotel, and I'm doing a pole dance for a ghost. As a joke. I had done the show. I knew this ghost was around, so I decided we were trying to communicate with this guy, right? So, and this is like, we're talking the gold country, so I decided to do this, and so I get on this pole, and I'm doing this little dance, and I'm like, look at me, I'm a big girl, I can hog hay for you, I can dig and look for gold for you, I've got good teeth, I'm doing, and of course somebody had to take a photo in the middle of it, and that's circulating around in some different places.
Your little world, yeah, I bet.
But anyway, and so I've been a ghost hunter. I've had my own paranormal team for 18 years.
That's 2006, yeah, and in 2018. Well, let me think back. Hold on my land, 1996, 10 years prior is when I started channeling the dead. So I was 10 years ahead of you for that, which I retired professionally from the heavy duty responsibility of channeling in 2018. So during that time, we all have our gifts and our talents and our careers, and I had to get out of it. You stay in it. I find the paranormal a little too much for me. I don't mind spirituality. I don't mind psychic. I don't mind channeling on occasion. I don't mind healing people, candle magic, of course, which I'm big on. And I have my own line of Wicks of Wisdom, which I'll train you how to promote when I'm gone. But I give you a lot of credit for doing the real dark that a lot of people need to know, because you're helping clear houses or hotels or restaurants that are haunted, or there is burial ground, or there was a war and there's the fallen soldiers, and people don't understand that the souls often are trapped. So people like you, do you set them free? Do you talk to them? Do they?
Yes. The majority you can set free. Some of them you can't. Sometimes it takes a lot of work, like this particular house we did out in Woodland, where the ghost was trying to protect the son that had autism from the father, because the father, it turns out, was very, very angry all the time. Really, really angry. There was poltergeist activity going on. He was causing it because he was so angry, and it turns out that he had a tumor on his brain. And
Oh,
I asked the wife because he had had a previous tumor removed, and I asked the wife. I said, "Well, when I first met them, because the guy was so irate, there was so much going on at the house." And I asked her, and I said, "When's the last time he had a brain scan?" And so it turns out that right, that he had a tumor growing, and that's part
so
of
the
the cause.
ghost was actually trying to get the attention to help heal and save the boy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's what people don't know, that it's not
yeah,
always negative, but there's
yeah.
a message. Or yesterday I had someone on that talks to animals, and a lot of times the animal will communicate to the owner, hey,
Yep.
this is what's really going on either with the animal or the person. And there's another form of mediumship through this. So you connect with the dead, as I have.
Right.
There are people that are with the dead and the living. And
Right.
the sensitive ones like us that have this gift/curse
Mhm.
know what to do with it, where the average person does not. And more times out of anything else, we're actually helping to give closure or some type of comfort or some type of communication to bridge that gap.
Mhm.
Along
that line of the animals, I had an Australian Kelpie that was a rescue, and nobody could keep her. She was like a one-person dog, and so she became my dog. But before I was diagnosed with heart failure, because I didn't know what was wrong with me. Before and during the whole thing, until I got my ablation surgery, that dog would lay on my chest every night.
And now you know why.
Yeah,
He
now I know
felt
why.
it. Dogs sense our illness.
If I coughed or anything, she'd move up higher on me like a mama dog. And this went on for a couple months, that she did this. So it was an incredible experience.
The dogs and cats are very telepathic, and a
Yeah.
lot of people don't understand this. And I have said this before, and I will say it again. I'm so sensitive. I can't stand animal cruelty. I don't care if it's the dogs, cats, or rat. Yes,
either.
The elephants, the camels, the one of the rhinoceros, or I forget what it is now extinct because the last one was killed in Africa. Some blonde. Mm-hmm. It's on my Facebook. I can't remember the name of the.
That blonde bimbo gal. Yeah. Her. Do you ever go to movies? And one of my first thoughts, and my dad was like this too. He would sit there in the theater and he thought, if they kill the dog, they'll kill the cat. I'm out of here. I'm not dealing with this crap.
You don't want to, but now what's happened, especially in the last 20, 25 years of the environmental and animal protection, they have to qualify in the film that no animals were actually injured or killed, or, that it was still camera and film magic to enact it. Like, I wouldn't even see the cocaine bear. I know that it was enacted. I know that it was based on a true story, but just to watch a bear inhaling a bunch of cocaine and going crazy, it hurt me. I didn't want to see this insane bear. I know what happened when my dog Penny was dying 2 years, a little over 2 years ago. I didn't know she had what's called canine disorder, cognitive disorder. She was digging in the hardwood floors. And I thought, what is she doing? Or I would walk her across the street and the walk got a little slower. She was 14, 15 years old. And I called it like the death march when she'd get up in the middle of the night and we had to take her out. Mm-hmm. I thought, okay, she's just aging. Well, she couldn't see as well, and she couldn't feel it as well. Even if she came to the ledge of the curb, she couldn't walk over the curb anymore. And so I called the vet, and they said, "Oh, that's canine cognitive disorder." I said, "What is that?" She goes, "It's like dementia. It's going to get worse," and it did. So that was on a Friday. By Sunday, no, it was on a Friday. I had her at the vet. Sunday, I called, and by Wednesday, I put her down. And between that call, Sunday to Wednesday, it was almost like night and day. She was trying to crawl into a Target bag and hide, or she was digging, or she would just be so lethargic and look, and she would stop eating. And I thought, oh my God, it's the end. And it's taken me the full 2 years to heal, but when you have an animal, you love them. Even a goldfish would hurt them. When my birds died,
Well, I've got a 16-year-old rat terrier that sundowns. So he's up all night.
It's hard. Yeah, especially if you're up all night with a dog and you're trying to sleep because you're up all day. Or you got a nocturnal cat that wants to play or needs your head.
I do that too. I have a male cat that's very vocal. And,
they start talking
all night long, and then I have two females that stare because they're inside cats. So I got two females that stare out the window because all the male cats are out there doing, parading out there and stuff, and they scream too. So I'm used to cats right now. I can sleep through almost anything.
That's good. Or get a couple of earplugs. But when the cats know something's wrong, or the dog knows there's something with our health, they're right there to cuddle, need, sit on top of you or whatever, they feel it. And sometimes they absorb our pain. There have been times if I cried over losing a boyfriend or when my mom died or whatever trauma I was going through where I was upset, the dog would become clingy, the cat would curl up, and they take care of us because they know we're not normal or in our usual behavior. And that's the beauty of it. I'm contemplating a new dog. I had a dream of a puppy the other night, a brown and white puppy with these big, large paws. I thought, oh no.
That's the one. That's the one.
That's the one. I got to go find it, right?
When my 16-year-old Kelpie died, because I had the rescue. I was going to get another dog because I felt the rescue had gone through enough, so she needed me to herself, But I had a dream, and I took it to be the dog's voice. I was walking down my block from house to house, and this voice came in my head, and it says, "I'm going to be a black and tan Kelpie, and I'll be back." Oh yeah, I mean that's why I took it to be her, and now I was able to find a 3-year-old about a year ago. I have a 3-year-old Kelpie that's black and tan, just like, and she looks almost just like the dog that passed away.
Well, that's interesting because I think dogs reincarnate, and you know that. I had a dog in 2003 that I rescued. She was half Whippet and half German Shorthair Pointer. I've got a picture. I'll get it in a moment. She was gorgeous, and she had amber eyes, and she would be like a sphinx in the backyard with her paws crossed. And until I trained her to get her to calm down, she was like a little pony running around, and she had no discipline. But I fell in love with this dog, and then her spine gave out, and I had her at the vet, and they had her on these herbal products to stop the pain. And I thought, let's just see what happens, if it's really the pain or if it's giving her comfort or what. And within a week and a half, she was shaking, literally shaking in pain. And I didn't know what was wrong. So I took her to a few vets. They said, "Oh, you have to put her down." This one said, "Do surgery." And it's like, I was not going to put this dog through surgery. At night, she was walking on her knuckles and not the paw pads because the tendons were falling. So I called my parents and I said, "Please meet me at the hospital. I got to put her down." This is where the spiritual stuff comes in besides what we're talking about. And this is how I want you to bring it in. If you're listening and we're live people and you're listening right now and you want to share your experience, 561-623-9421 is the number today to speak to Charlotte and me. But what happened with Kayla, it was August 5th, 2006. I put her down around 11, 12 at night. And it broke my heart. And she was my first dog, my dog, not my parents' dog, mine. And I'd already had a few cats. I had one cat named Bambi that I rescued after the Malibu fire and the earthquake in 1994. And this all puts together this story. Bambi was furless. She had mites. She was horribly sick. And she was in a cage. And I put my hand up by this cage when I went looking for a cat. And she licked my hand, and I knew that I had to have her. They said, "Well, she's not going to be fur. You're not going to be fur." This cat had more fur within 3 months, and I had to keep brushing and brushing and brushing and brushing. And she was my cat, Bambi. I named her Bambi because of the fire. But then I thought Bambi was lonely, so I went back to the store, and I got Colby, who was a lump of coal, just black. Kept running him to the vet because I didn't know about cats. He said, the vet would say, "What's wrong with this cat?" I said, "I don't know. He doesn't do anything." That's a cat. I was waiting for it to do something. I get Kayla. Bambi was queen of the home for so long. Kayla comes in, this huge giant, a 50-pound dog. She resented me till the day she died. She left the house. She crawled into the den. She sat in the same place on the futon bed, would not come out. I had to feed her in there, put a new litter box in there. This cat was pissed at this dog for 3 years, right? And I would talk, or I'd walk by, she'd go, meow, like she was talking to me, "Mom," but she wouldn't come out. And I'd pick her up, try to take her to the dog, and all this stuff's going on. This cat was angry, but then she started throwing up, and I didn't know what was wrong, and I got angry at her, and then I realized she had nasal cancer, and I put her down, but I remember she was pooping and throwing up, and I thought, what are you doing? And I was a little rough, and I have so many times talked to her in spirit, like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know you were sick." And I put her down. And then I still had Kayla at that time. No, Kayla. Oh my gosh, now I can't even remember my timing. I think I still had Bambi before I put Kayla down. But what happened was, no, I had put Kayla down first. So when Kayla was gone, she'd come out and look for it because she could smell and know that the dog was gone. So she started relapsing her last few years. But with Kayla, I took her collar, put it up on the wall as a memento to Kayla. A year later, I'm getting something out of the refrigerator and the collar fell off that nail. I'm like, what? So I pick it up and I look at it, and then I looked at it again and I thought, I look at the clock. It was August 5th, 11 p.m. the year later. So it was like Kayla saying, I'm here, Mom. You're okay. Getting chills, the confirmation. Bambi got sick after that. I had Misty, who was afraid of Kayla, but Misty learned to come around. I said, come on, come on. And I would talk, and they became friends, but Bambi hated Kayla. And when it came time to put Bambi down, I kept her collar. And then when I put Misty down, I've got her collar, and I now have Penny's collar. So they're all right here in the room, so they're with me. The spiritual part of the other side was when that collar fell off the wall.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And that was a sign. I hear her every now and then, and she's got this elegant, proper voice. And everything's okay. Just everyone just thinks that. This elegant, kind of arrogant, but sophisticated dog. And then Bambi would just be kneading my head. And I used to miss that when she wouldn't come in my room anymore because of the monster, which was Kayla. So I would take her paws and I'd be like, come on, let's do it. Nope, didn't want to play. Then spiritually, when things like that happen, you start to open up to how the universe works even more. Another time, I had a red Jaguar back in 2006 when you started all this. I was on my way to one of my clients' home about 40 minutes from here, and my car gave out in the middle lane of what's known as Highway 18, which is a fast thoroughfare in the North Valley, in Simi Valley, and a Mack truck was coming. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. So I call my client, and her name was Linda, and I said, Linda, I may be killed in a few minutes. Please call 911, and I hung up. And this Mack truck was on my way, and all of a sudden it swerves. My car went like this, and I was like, it missed me by a hair. And out of the blue comes a guy and a girl in a pickup truck with a mattress in the back. He says, come on, get in. Jesus is saving you. I'm like, I'm Jewish, but okay. So I got out of my car, hopped in this truck. We got off the off-ramp, went around on the opposite road. The car was still sitting there, and a cop shows up. I'm like, oh, God, now I'm really in trouble. So the cop stops the traffic, diverts it around the car, gets a tow truck in the middle of the freeway, moves the car over to the embankment. Then he looks and goes, my neighbor has the same car. There's something wrong with these engines. I said, really? Because I'm not going to give you a ticket because I understand. Well, I know he's going to watch. He won't be watching the show, and it's 18 years later. So the tow truck gets me to the gas station. He goes, ma'am, you're out of gas. I mean, who knew, right? I was out of gas, but I was like this close to getting creamed by a Mack truck. That's God. That's spirit. Whether the collar comes off the wall or something bigger's watching this whole thing. And then you got what's called an earth angel. These people are earth angels. Have you had any of those kind of experiences where you've had like the disbelief of like, what? Is it odd or is it God? I'm sure you have.
Definitely. And just one quick add-on to this new dog that I have is that, and this is more, it's like a ghost spirit thing. My father, for the last few years of his life, always had a boat. And he's Hungarian, so the boat was always Gypsy or Gypsy Rose is what he named it. Well, I was kind of dragging my feet about getting the dog because I was going to go to Disneyland. And I thought, well, it's going to be a lot of work to get someone to take care of her if I go get her. And the breeder says, well, her name is Gypsy.
And you had gypsies and roses all along. And what is the chance?
Yeah, my dad chose her. Yeah.
Is it odd or is it God? Things come together.
I have to go get her now. I mean, that's my dad. He chose the dog, you know. So.
It's like, I think this dog that appeared in my dream along with this guy that I met a few months ago who I hadn't spoken to for a while. He was in the dream, and now we're talking again. Like we've been nonstop for the last few days. It's like spirit does what we can't. Whether it's the boat, the name, the caller, the truck, a angel with a pickup truck to come on, we're saving you. It's like that's some of the spiritual stuff you cannot make up. You cannot make this stuff up. How are you in the right place at the right time and someone's there with a gypsy or a truck or a cop whose neighbor had a car whose engine broke when it was just out of gas? It's too weird. When my aunt passed away in 2006, I don't know why 2006 seems to be so big with your starting this. And I had some weird things going on in my life back then. My aunt was dying of lung cancer. We were at her house, my cousin and her husband, my parents, and then my parents left, and I decided to stay with my cousin, and we left to go to her house with the kids until she had passed during the night, which we knew. And then when we got the call, we went back. But before she passed away, I said, Dorothy, give me a sign or a symbol. What should I look for once you're there? She said pine cones, because she knows I love pine cones. And that was always my one of my totems. And I wear a little necklace with a pine cone on that a friend gave me. I do feathers, pine cones, and butterflies. That's my thing for signs of God, winks of God. So I get to my aunt's complex, and where she lived in Southern California, there were 5 apartment buildings in a big circle, like a campus, Charlotte. And I said, I kept hearing, she goes, you're going to find pine cones, but think back to the house. And when I thought back, what had happened, I drove an Infiniti at the time, and I had a little Infiniti insignia on my keychain. When I opened the door, it broke. It had never broken before, ever. But my aunt had the same car a year later. So that was her first sign to say, hi. So I drove. I said, all right, there's no pine cones. There are no pine trees here. Okay. Where am I going to find a pine cone? She said, go around the corner. I'm like, come on. There are no pine cones, but there were little paths and a walkway and some shrubs. I looked down, and there was a baby pine cone. Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
She goes, keep going. There's 2 more. I said, oh, come on. I'm talking to me. I'm arguing with this voice in my head. That was my aunt who died 12 hours earlier. If that. I found 2 more pine cones. I walked upstairs. I said, what did your mom say to look for when she dies? I said, pine cones. I opened my palm, and there were 3 pine cones. Is that odd or God? So how do we confirm our association with the other side, especially to the novice that doesn't believe in this stuff? And you and I deal with it all the time.
I like to, I write this stuff down now.
Oh, you have to.
I started to write it down when it got more frequent. I had a car accident. And get this, it was New Year's Day, or New Year's Eve. New Year's Day, 2006.
Oh, you in 2006. Go on.
And I had a Dodge Daytona Turbo Z back then, so it was a beautiful day. So I thought, well, I'm going to go up to Lake Tahoe, take the drive.
You and me with the hot rod cars. We got to have sports cars.
Love it. Love sports cars. And I was driving back and coming around this corner, and I hit some ice. And I did what my dad taught me to do. My dad grew up in Cleveland, so he knew how to drive.
My mom is from Cleveland.
See, we got all kinds of stuff.
Wait a minute. What year was your dad in Cleveland? My mom, I was just there 2 years ago to research my great-grandfather, who was a famous rabbi, and I found the tombstone in Slalom, whatever it's called. My mom grew up in Cleveland Heights, and I found the duplex she lived in. Where was your father?
My dad was somewhere living in Cleveland somewhere. I don't know exactly where he was, but he was born in 1926. Yeah, he was born in 26. And I've been all over there. I've been to that big park, that big glacial park that's out there.
Yeah. I don't know the name of it.
Yeah, I've been everywhere out there. So he taught me how to drive on ice and snow, obviously, because Cleveland.
I'm still like, whoa. My mom was born in 31.
Yeah.
No, she was born in 30 in Detroit. See? They moved to Cleveland in 30-something, 33 maybe. My great-grandfather was a famous rabbi, and in 1931, I have pictures of the old rabbis and the old the Orthodox Jews carrying a Torah from one shul to the other in the streets of Cleveland. So your dad and my mom lived in Cleveland in the
About the
30s.
same time. Yeah.
Oh
same
my
time.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it odd or God? That's weird. We'll have to bring your
Yeah.
dad in and talk to him or my
Yeah,
mom.
that's a weird one too.
Wow. Ooh. Okay, people, you don't understand when I get chills and I do this. So I keep
So like I
interrupting
said,
Charlotte. Go on.
the car started to spin, so I reacted properly. I turned into the spin with it. The problem was once I turned into the spin, the steering wheel locked for some reason. Next thing I know, I'm going towards the cliff.
Oh my God.
And all that was there was a snowbank, and I was thinking I was braced. I was totally braced like this, and I thought, well, and you get these thoughts, when you get something like that, and this is something I found happened to my mother too. When you get close to death, something happens so that you're not afraid. There's just something, I don't know who sends that energy or what, but something happens so you're not afraid. So my immediate thought was, oh, it's
It's the
going to be a hell of a
angels.
yeah. My immediate thought was, instead of going, oh my God, I'm going to go over the cliff, was, oh, it's going to be a hell of a view. That was my thought when I'm in the car. It's going to be a hell of a view. What I didn't know was that there was a guardrail there, so I bounced off the guardrail. So I bounced off, flipped around, and again, my car is still
And
locked.
you're in a Z?
I'm in a Daytona Turbo Z. And my steering wheel's still locked. Well, when I finally got flipped around, here comes Mr. Logging Truck.
Oh my God, you sound like me with the Mack truck.
And
Come
I'm
on.
looking out the driver's window and I'm thinking, I'm really going to die now. And I hear this voice go, hit the gas.
But Dad said no.
Yeah, so I hit the gas and I ended up hitting the other embankment head on, which was fine because that took the impact. In fact, I had to crawl out the driver's side window to get out of the car. Totaled the car, got a tow back and all that stuff. 3 months later, the car got recalled.
Oh my God, so you got all your money back.
Yeah, so it's because the steering wheels had a tendency to lock on them.
And you probably had a better case than you had before because of everything. What happened to the logger? Did he stop or did he keep going? What happened to that guy?
He kept going because, there's nothing he could have done. I got out of his way. Had he hit me, he would have obviously stopped. I'd have been dead at that point.
So the car smashes, you get out, you get the car recalled. What happened to you physically? Were you broken? Did you break any bones or just the stress or out of body?
Nope, nothing. Just crawl out the window of the car.
I don't want to say, well, I could say, holy F.
To give you an idea, I drove the car to work the next day.
What?
Then we took it to the dealer to have it looked at, an insurance guy, the dealer, and they said, well, you can't drive this car anymore because it's one of those unibodies. And so the thing with the frame was completely off kilter. And so I had to give the car up to scrap. But I drove the car the next day. The car was still drivable.
But then what did the insurance do? When you filed that claim that you had the steering wheel lock and this is what happened, and then they reimbursed on the car, or what happened after they recalled the car? How did all this play out for you with the insurance?
For the car from the insurance company, but it wasn't, obviously what the car.
The whole car.
Yeah, the whole car worth. So I went out, bought a car. I don't remember if I bought my pickup truck at that time or if my dad, I think that was the other thing. My dad was funny because he had wrecked a couple of sports cars growing up, and so all he said was, "I have 3 words for you. I can't repeat them here."
Yes,
so he
you
went,
can.
Bump, bump, bump. So you can see that. You know what he said. And then we went in.
Did it start with an F? Give me a letter. I'll give you. Is it a vowel or a consonant?
It's a G. It's a G. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. I don't want to get you thrown off the network.
You will later. Go. Gee, God, God, God. But
God, yeah, God. It started with God. We'll put it that way. Yeah. It was God. Okay, I'll say
it's okay. We're okay. We're okay. This is only going to YouTube.
He says, "God damn you," and that was it. That's all he told me, and then off we went. He got me. He turned around, I guess, to punish me. He got me like an AMC Matador, and this is funny too. He bought me an AMC Matador, clunky big car,
yeah,
huge engine, big mistake, right? So I'm like really depressed with this car. I'm like, oh my God, it's ugly. I hate this car. I got to pull out of the driveway and I laid rubber about 30 feet. And I'm like,
tell me it wasn't that hot green.
Yes.
I knew that.
Yes. And my poor dad almost had a heart attack because he thought, well, I could settle her down now because she's not in a sports car anymore. Yeah, he picks this car with like a 450 engine or whatever he had in there.
No, we got lead feet.
Rubber out the driveway. I thought, hot dang. So I hit the gas going down to my block, 3 houses down. I laid rubber all the way down for 3 houses.
You're more gutsy than me. I don't do that. Yesterday, and I think you saw it on Facebook. I mean, when I was a kid, my 16th birthday, my dad got my grandmother's Malibu for my 16th birthday. So it was kind of a cool. It was a 66 Malibu in 1970, and it was pretty cool, right? And then I got a Vega, Chevy Vega, which was the first real sporty. And then I sold that when I was in San Francisco. No, I sold it when I went to Michigan after school. And then I got out of school, got a Camaro. So again, the sport. So my mom had sports. My dad had, the Buicks, the Cadillacs, the Jags, but the sport. Right. And my mom had the 68 Camaro that was real, or 69 Camaro that was really spiffy.
God, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yep, I was in high school. And then I guess I went into a Nissan, and I wasn't pleased with that. That's all I could afford at the time. Then I graduated to that Infiniti, which I loved for 7 years. And then I think I got the Jaguar, and then I went into a Lincoln, whatever. And then I went to I got a Mercedes 350, which I didn't like. Then I loved the Alfa Giulia, but after lockdown, they couldn't replace the parts because everything went on during lockdown. So I ended up with the BMW, and I got a 330, and I hated it. And 4 months later, I called this guy I knew, and I said, I hate this car. He said, go get the 430. So I went and got the 430i, and I love this car. I have hardly any miles on it. It's coming up for renewal on the lease or to turn it in. And it's got such low mileage. I babied this thing. It's the first car, Charlotte. I never dinged. I didn't hit anything. Nothing hit me until last week. My assistant was backing into my driveway and screwed up the bumper.
Oh, wow.
And I raised bloody hell. She comes in, when are you going to see so-and-so who does my car detailing? I said, why? Well, I said, what's going on? She goes, and she couldn't talk. I said, are you quitting? No. I said, spit it out. She goes, I hit your car. I'm like, what? And I was like, no, I babied this thing. My little car. So it's been in the shop. We went to pick it up yesterday. They called to say it was ready. I get there. They put the wrong color bumper.
How could they do that?
I don't know. Because on my 430, it's a coupe, a two-door. Most of it's this beautiful blue, but the bumper on the bottom is a dark gray. They put a bright, chromy silver. I'm like, that's not my car. No, they said, yes, that's what it said on the computer with the number, the catalog, whatever. I said, no. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I said, no. Now, they did impeccable work in the past on my Alpha when I got hooked on the curb because the low fenders, they're not made for streets. But I said, this is not it. They said, well, we're going to have to charge you, blah, 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 a couple $100. I said, no, you're not. This is your fault. So finally, since my assistant's paying, I saved her a couple $100. I said, you're going to replace this with the right color. They got on the phone, called whoever. The new bumper's being put on today. We'll pick it up. I said, how do you do this? How do you not pay attention? How does this happen? I mean, today's day and age, people just don't care. There's no quality assurance. There's no quality control. Yes, ma'am. Well, somebody said put it up on Yelp, and I just might, even though I loved working with these people, but this was big. I'm glad I found it. It's like, no. I had to even ask my car dealer, do you still have my detailer, do you still have the picture that I sent you last week? So I said, he could fix it. And he had it in his phone, so I deleted it. And no, it was not the same color. We got 5 minutes left. These are spiritual experiences. I'm Dr. Linda Salvin. Is it odd or is it God? We don't know what goes on out there, but between dogs and cats and heart disease or people dying or black shadow people or things falling off the wall and collars and paranormal activity, is it real or not? I'm getting chills talking about this. If you want to talk to Charlotte off the air and you've downloaded this show, where can they find you?
If you want to talk to me off the air, okay, you can find me at 917. Well, I guess phone number is good. 917. My email. Let's do email. Okay, I don't want my phone blowing up. You can get
it's not going to blow up. Trust me, not for a while. Not to the new marketing cell. But go ahead anyway, because you don't know where it's going to go.
CESARSGHOST@yahoo.com. Caesar's Ghost.
Caesar's Ghost at AOL.com. She hasn't evolved out of AOL.
Yahoo.com.
Oh, Yahoo, sorry, my fault. I heard it wrong. I'm audio dyslexic, and I'm Dr. Linda Salvin. And you can find me at lindasalvin.com. This has been a hoot. We got a few minutes left. So these weird things happen in life to all of us. But what happens to you? Send us emails. Let's hear about it. Bring us on. We'll bring you on the show at some point. Tomorrow, is the start of a holiday weekend, people. It's Memorial Day. We're coming to the end of spring, going into summer soon. We've got the solstice coming on. I have a guest that's going to be on in a few weeks from Alaska who's going to be talking about what life is like in the land of the midnight sun, because there's 24 hours of daylight for 72 days. So my friend that I met up there is going to join me, and you'll hear about that when I return. However, next week I will be here. The following week, the 4th, 5th, and 6th of June, those shows are going to be hosted by Charlotte here. I don't care if you do the paranormal. I don't care if you promote yourself, but you got to get into candle magic, wicks of wisdom, work like a prescription for your soul, and how we help with money, love, moving, even getting rid of negative spirits. Or you can talk about spiritual things or whatever you feel like. Just we'll figure out your topics so that
Sure.
Rebel, come on in, on, through.
Hi.
Be the ghost, be the voice. So you can help co-host and play with the show with Charlotte when I'm in New York. Like I said, I don't know my schedule yet. I know Friday I'm totally busy. Tuesday I'm flying. Wednesday, Thursday I'm going to be bonkers. So you guys will take over during that time and have some fun with it. And Rebel has an interesting legal problem going on that you can have some fun with talking about that as to the story. And I'm certain he's still in jail, unfortunately, right?
Yep.
Wait till you hear this, Charlotte. You're going to have a field day with it. So you guys will play with the show or host the show, co-host the show when I'm gone, and help each other out. And we'll get all the links to you, Charlotte. And people who are listening, thank you always for being attentive to the Psychic Solutions podcast. I'm Dr. Linda Salvin. That's Charlotte Kosa. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions podcast. You can reach Dr. Linda at 888-509-1077 or at lindasalvin.com. Need a breakthrough of your own? Ready for answers or insights nobody else has? Reserve your own one-on-one in-person chat. Dr. Linda isn't just for other people. Dr. Linda gets results for you. And it's easy. Contact details are on screen now. Just click on lindasalvin.com or call toll-free 888-509-1077. That's lindasalvin.com or toll-free at 888-509-1077.